If you plan on coming to Canada as an international student, or you are already here as an international student, and especially if you plan on applying for postgraduate work permit after school or after graduation, you have to know the eligibility criteria in order not to jeopardize your chances of qualifying for a PGWP after school. I saw the need to make this video because I had someone comment on one of my videos asking if it's possible to do one course every semester in Canada. And I kept asking myself, why would anyone even want to do that in the first place, even if it was possible? And the only thing I could think of is probably the person just wants to stay in Canada longer than the duration of their program, which still doesn't make sense. If you know you will not qualify for PGWP, you shouldn't be wasting your time coming to school in the first place. And if you do qualify for PGWP, you should rather want to complete your education faster so that you can just jump right on it and hopefully qualify for PR as soon as possible. Because this is Canada, things change really fast. And that aside, so far as you are in school, you are still going to be limited as to the number of hours you can work, no matter how many programs you are taking, how many courses you are taking in the semester. Even if you are taking just one course and as a result have a lot of time on your hands, you are still going to be limited to the 24 hours a week that everybody else is limited to. Now let me go to the PGWP qualifications. According to IRCC website, you have to apply for your PGWP 180 days after your graduation. And in order to apply for it, you just have to prove to them that you indeed attended and completed your program, and you have to give them the name of your program and the length of your program. You can confirm any of these by submitting any of the following. That's your degree or diploma, your transcript, or an official letter from your school. And one thing too is, after graduation, your study permit must be eligible. It must still be valid at some point within that 180 days. It doesn't necessarily have to be valid for the whole 180 days. No. So first, it's valid after graduation within that 180 days at some point. Even if it was valid like a week after graduation, it is still okay. Except if you know your visa, your study permit is going to expire before you even apply for your PGWP or before you get your PGWP. You have two options. Either you apply for a visitor record so that you can stay in Canada longer, at least until you get your PGWP, or you have to exit the country and then apply for a PGWP outside Canada. If you wait for your study permit to expire without applying for a visitor record or without exiting, you must pay to reinstitute your status first before paying for another PGWP. Because if you do not reinstitute your status, it means you are in Canada illegally without a status, and you cannot be here without a status. And this is one thing you do not want to get yourself into. So if you know your permit is going to expire right after school, make sure you apply for a visitor record, because I know most of you want to leave and then apply from outside Canada. So if that's the case, apply for a visitor record and be able to stay longer instead. And also, the general eligibility criteria of the PGWP is that 1, you must have completed a study program at a designated learning institute at any DLI. And there is a website to know if your school qualifies, which I've shared countless times. And you must maintain full-time status. This applies to the question that guy asked. You must maintain a full-time status as a student in Canada during each semester of your study program. That means if you're doing a 4-semester program, like 2 years, you have to make sure that you have a full course load. At no point are you allowed to go part-time or take just a few of the courses. You must maintain a full-time load in every semester. There are exceptions though. There are always exceptions to every rule. And these exceptions include studying part-time during your final semester. There are many courses where in the beginning you'll be doing your full-time programs, but then at the end of the semester, in your final semester, you have just a few subjects left. And as a result, you have no option but to study part-time. That is allowed. And you can also take an approved leave from your studies. Like, let's say your program is 2 years. After 1 year, you can ask for a deferral from your school, and then they will approve it for you that you can come back and continue your last year, maybe in 6 months' time or whichever semester. So far as it is approved by the school, that break is allowed. And if you had also stopped studying or changed your studies to part-time during the COVID time, that's between March 2020 and the 4th semester in 2020, that's March and September 2020. If you switched to part-time during that period, that was when COVID was very, very serious and some people stopped schooling, some schools closed down and all of that. So if you switch to part-time around that period, it is allowed. And I was also reading somewhere, if you're doing a master's program, yes, you can also take part-time in a certain semester and they will still allow it. And one other thing I also read is, if you do an accelerated program, like if your program is supposed to last for 2 years, and let's say you complete it earlier, like 1.5 years, you still get your PGWP based on the full duration of your program. That's for the 2 years. They are not going to judge it based on the 1.5 years you used to complete. That makes it an accelerated program. But then you still get your PGWP based on the normal duration of the program. So if it's a 2-year program, you get a 3-year postgraduate permit. And one other condition for your PGWP is that you should have a study permit that has been valid within the last 180 days, as I mentioned earlier. Also, during the COVID period, some students couldn't come to Canada to further their education, so they had to do it online and outside of Canada. Our borders were closed, so you couldn't come. So that is also an exception for people who can apply for their PGWP whilst outside Canada. So in order to qualify for that, you must have completed your studies online from outside Canada between March 2020 and August 31st, 2022. And you didn't need a valid study permit during the time you were studying because of the temporary COVID-19 policy. And with that too, you still have 180 days after graduation to apply for your PGWP. So, as I said, you do need to maintain your full-time status in each semester you are schooling in Canada to be able to qualify for PGWP. I had someone who contacted me, who came to my DM telling me that for financial reasons, he had to switch to part-time in one of his semesters because at that time he was not aware of the eligibility criteria. And as a result, after graduation, he was having problems getting his postgraduate work permit. Unfortunately, I've not heard from him yet whether he was finally able to find a way through or not. But per the rules, he does not qualify for postgraduate work permit. And that is an unfortunate situation, considering how much you have to spend as an international student schooling in Canada. So make sure you arm yourself with these criteria and not fall foul, or all your investments will go to waste. And when the time comes, there is nothing you can do about it, because the rules are rules. And the last thing you want to do is to try to find a way to beat the system. This is not something you try to beat. It's either you are ready for it or not. It's as simple as that. Have a nice day.